Disney's live action remake of Snow White is seeing success on Disney Plus platform because apparently it is the #1 movie on Disney Plus right now, which means it's not just a dumpster fire of a movie that lost hundreds of millions of dollars for. Okay, I can't keep going doing that for that much longer. You get the idea, though. The movie did lose hundreds of millions of dollars for Disney. I think it was less than $200 million or somewhere around that it made on a reported budget of $270 million, but let's be real. The budget for the movie was probably closer to $400 million, according to the tax filings. They're saying that it was significantly lower, but regardless, the movie still lost a ton of money. But Disney is somehow trying to still salvage the image of this movie by saying that it's the #1 movie on Disney Plus. And you know what? To a certain extent, they might actually be right about that, because if you recall, just Madam Web, for instance, that was a movie that was obviously awful when it was released at the theaters, but when it went to Netflix, it was actually one of the biggest movies on Netflix upon its launch there. And that's because people seem to have an appetite for train wrecks. Now, they might not necessarily go and watch them in theaters because they're not going to waste good money, but if they already have access to the streaming platform, then it stands to reason that they might be willing to give it a shot on that, just to kind of stay at home with some alcohol and just laugh about it with your friends. At least that's how I would like to enjoy movies like this. So maybe that's what's happening with Snow White, but still Disney's going to try to somehow spin it to see like a movie that people are watching to mock is somehow a success for them. And even then, if that is the case where this movie is successful on Disney Plus, it kind of goes to show the poor performance of Disney Plus as a platform. Disney is rolling out the red carpet for Snow White, but it's not the kind you would expect with the live action remake starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot having arrived on Disney Plus on June 11th. The studio was quick to highlight a not so surprising fact. The movie soared to the #1 spot on every major Disney Plus chart worldwide within days. There's an important caveat to make here, and we'll go to that in just a moment. That's according to this article from That Park Place. And this was something that I think I don't know if I said it in lead up to the release of Snow White. I think I might have said it at some point. Either way, though, I thought that this movie, when they eventually do release it on Disney Plus, probably would actually see quite a few viewers on there because, like I said, people like to watch a train wreck, and this is something that people might not be willing to spend money to go watch in theaters, but it's something that they might be watching out of curiosity, especially since it's said to be so bad. And as someone who did watch it and posted a review on this channel, if you want to check out my full thoughts on it, the movie was pretty terrible, but there's a lot of people who aren't willing to actually spend money to just have something confirmed what they're already thinking. The only reason I watched it is because I made a video about it on this channel. I mean, I've talked about it so much over the years as in the whole lead up to it. I felt like it was my obligation to have to actually go watch the movie and give it an honest review, which, no, just kind of as a quick rundown, it was completely trash, but there were some redeeming qualities about it. So I'm not going to say that it was the worst movie of all time, but it's still a pretty bad movie. This post right here after this news came out. Opening Disney Plus today, I did not like seeing this. I wanted this movie to flop like it did in movie theaters. This is an awful, trash, awful movie to me. Unfortunately, the Snow White remake has got trending #1 on Disney Plus. Snow White, Disney Plus, the old OG animated Snow White, better to me. The original Snow White movie is significantly better than this one. I think this person was, I don't know, not very realistic, expecting it not to actually get somewhat of a blip, because once it's released on Disney Plus, it's probably going to have that initial bump of people who are just curious about it. They heard how bad the movie was, so they're interested in checking it out themselves. But one thing about this is this article kind of gets into it is Disney is a little wishy-washy on what they count as viewerships or how it actually achieved its #1 spot on their platform. It should be very clearly stated that Disney Plus has a top 10 list, but our understanding is that it does not in any way correlate to actual viewers or view time. If that were the case, Blu would be at the top every single week. Instead, we believe that Disney purposely curates the list for their own purposes, and then the list is used for public relations and marketing. In other words, while Snow White likely is the #1 movie streaming on Disney Plus in its first 3 days of hitting the service, we see this time and time again with box office releases coming to the service, regardless of their success or failure. sites using the top 10 on Disney Plus are doing a disservice to their readers. And that could be true too. I think it's fair that it points out that it's possible that it could be the number one on their platform because it's a new release for it. So they're obviously going to push it front and center. So when you log on to Disney Plus, it's something that has a really prominent spot on there as opposed to having to kind of search around for it. And when something is at the front page of the streaming site, then that's usually when it's going to have a number one position, or at least have a position within the top 10. So when you hear about bad movies having a good release on streaming service after it's released, a lot of it could be attributed to the streaming service paying good money to license it. So they want to get their money's worth. So they're going to put it on the front page of it so that it's going to get more views. If they just license it, then it's kind of stuck it within like buried in some category where you have to search it out specifically. Well, then it's probably not going to get as much traction. So by having it on the front page like that, then it's definitely going to get more views. And since it's kind of infamous at this point, then I could see why it would actually get the number one spot, or at least it will have a prominent position until they finally remove it from its position right now on the front of Disney Plus. That said, we do expect Nielsen or the Illuminate will show Snow White to have achieved at least decent numbers in its first week on streaming. Why wouldn't it? There's no cost of viewing for tuning into and viewing something that they likely didn't go see in theaters. Yes, I'm sure a lot of people who already have seen this in theaters have no interest in watching it on Disney Plus. I know I don't have any interest in watching it on Disney Plus. Like I said, I saw it, didn't really care for it. My wife was at first willing to go with me, but then she chickened out at the last second, said like, nope, I don't want to go see this. So I don't think she wants to watch it even at home when you don't have to pay any extra for this sort of thing right now. And like I said, I don't have any interest in watching it again, because even though the movie was bad, and I actually did laugh quite a bit throughout it, in situations where the movie probably didn't intend for me to laugh. It's not one of those movies that's so bad that I can watch multiple times and laugh about how bad it is. It was just kind of a terrible movie that I was able to get some enjoyment out of when I was essentially forced to watch it, forced by myself, I suppose. So not really forced, but I guess you kind of get the idea if I'm doing this for the channel. The marketing triumph couldn't come at a more critical time. The Snow White theatrical debut in March 2025 was a public misfire on a scale that was once rare for Disney, with the hefty $370 million plus production budget. Like I said, officially, according to the numbers here, they say it's around $270 million, but I've done a number of videos talking about this in the past with tax filings and other things like that. The budget was significantly higher, especially when you take into consideration the marketing spend on this movie. That's something that the production budget doesn't actually take into consideration. Production budget, the film managed to gross only $205 million globally, earning the label of a box office bomb, and that is a complete understatement. This was a box office nuke right there for them, and not to mention it was a remake of the original movie that launched pretty much the whole Disney company to begin with. So not only was it a financial failure for them, but it was also just a huge embarrassment for the company. Critics were largely unimpressed, some praising Zegler's performance, but criticizing the reimagined dwarfs and political tone. Audience reactions were lukewarm too, a 40% critic score, Rotten Tomatoes, and only 71% audience rating, with a cinema score of B+. For those not in the know, cinema score lower than A- is not good with their quite odd grading system. And then it's saying right now they're kind of in damage control mode, trying to salvage what they can from this movie. And I think what we're seeing right now with this reporting that it's number one on Disney Plus is just more of that. But one of the things that I think would be more embarrassing for Disney, because right now, if they're trying to make it seem like it's such a huge hit for the Disney Plus platform, and then when we start getting those Nielsen numbers coming in for the streaming service for this time period, and we see that Snow White, if it's low on their top 10 list or not even on it to begin with, then that just goes to show the state of Disney Plus right now. If the number one thing that they have on it right now, right after it's premiering on Disney Plus, isn't even making any of the charts, it just goes to show that Disney Plus is in a truly devastating position right now. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Do you think it's true that this is actually performing well on Disney Plus, despite terrible it did at the box office? Or do you think Disney is trying to manipulate information in order to try to say somehow salvage the image of this movie? Or maybe it's a combination of both of them. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.